about your consecration. At different times you've told me different aspects of it. Talk about the service itself, what you felt, what you determined that you wanted to bring back to the States to share with us. What was it like, etc.?
Well, I had been ordained a priest and didn't know what I was going to do with it. Wound up working in one of the continuing Anglican churches here. They had me kind of being their number two and holding services. And I was kind of happy to do that because I could do outreach, and I wanted to. What I wanted to do was get to a healing ministry. That's where I always wanted to go. Was actually being a healing ministry. I never got there because, God takes you where He wants you to go, not where you think you want to go. And I was doing that, doing services into the Anglican church, talking to them, trying to do a healing ministry, trying to get them to do some outreach at the homeless center downtown. And we did some of that. We fed some of the people, ministered to them. And I was happy just, serving where I was at. And then one day out of the blue, I get this phone call from Scotland. And it's like a conference call of Scots on there. And they've had they would go to Bishop Gillies at St. Ninian's and hold their bishops' meetings. And they were there with their legal counsel, Gaynor Birkin, who had been ordained a priest the same time I had. And they had decided by unanimous vote to consecrate me a bishop. Well, I was floored. I had no idea. Nobody talked about it to me before. And I immediately began saying, no, not me, because I'm incompetent. You don't want me for a bishop. I have no idea what to do. No. Yes, we've prayed about it, this and that. And I said, no, you understand. I said, I can't do it. I simply can't do it. I can't. And I said, a lot more qualified people in the church besides me that you need to consider. No, we've prayed about it, and it's sort of like choosing Matthias. You're it. And I said, I ain't gonna do it. Not gonna do it. And this is how it went. They called me, and I said, I ain't gonna do it. And finally, Bishop Gillies, in his Bishop Gillies ways, starts talking about all the people that didn't want to do something. And some of the Celtic saints, Saint Aidan, who had a stuttering problem, and another one had a drinking problem, and this and that, and Moses, and all these people who didn't want to do something. Paul got blinded, and he said, you know what? He said, they didn't escape, and you're not either. And I said, well, I'm not them. So you're talking about people that, these are big people in the church. And he said, the Lord has come down and grabbed me by the scruff of the hair, and He's pulling me along. He's taking you with Him. And that was that. He's got you by the scruff of the hair too, and you're coming with me. And so I thought, well, okay. You keep saying no, and they keep saying yes. So they scheduled it in September, and I booked my flight. But let me back up here. I want to tie something else in here, because these are two times when, if there's anything evil in the world that could interfere with you doing good, it happens to you. After I became ordained as a priest, flying back, I had my original alb that I'd been ordained in as a deacon and a priest, made of this wheat, flax material, handmade, by the way, for me. And one of the ladies there in the church, the Mother Kirk there, had been to Ona and had a couple of stones she brought back as a souvenir for me, as an ordination present. It meant so much to me because, again, you just, I don't know, just maybe psychological, but you just almost feel something special about it. And so I put these in my luggage like a dummy, didn't think about it, and my ordination alb, and my, I kept my program with me in a little carry-on thing, didn't get lost, and we boarded and flew back. Lo and behold, we get back, I got no luggage. And the airline wasn't interested in finding it. I called them up, they just said, well, tough stuff. It'll show up where it won't. And I said, well, it's got tags on the outside, it's got tags on the inside. You know what the bags look like? Once you look for them, no, we ain't got time. And so I kept calling and raising Cain because it didn't show up in a few days. And I finally got this department where the stuff that's damaged gets shipped to. And I got a lady and finally got her to help me. And she goes back there, she's got a description, she's got a check, she don't, goes around, and she doesn't find it. And at that point, they just always said, well, we basically don't care. We'll give you some money. And I said, I understand this has got something very special in it. Well, a few days later, I'm sitting at home, water starts squirting in my yard. Water line breaks. And not to get into off topic, but all these things kept happening to me after I got ordained. I guess to discourage me, to block me from getting started in ministry. I don't know what happened. Just thing after thing after thing happened. And in terms of the luggage, something like 9 months later, one of the pieces showed up at our doorstep after I'd already got paid by the airline. The small bag showed up. All this dirty clothes are in it. It just amazed us. The big bag that had all my religious artifacts, gone. Never showed up. Just gone forever. Now, come forward. The reason I'm telling that's for a reason. I'm going to Scotland to be concentrated with mixed feelings. Can't talk them out of it. And again, they're bringing in people from all over the church. Julian Roche is coming in from Australia. In fact, he made me a very nice wooden cross for my ordination gift. And Bishop Gilly's going to pick me up with, and Julian, and maybe David Knight, somebody at the airport in Glasgow. And I get to the airport, and I forget the reason, but the plane is supposed to leave New York, can't fly. Can't get you there. What about delay? All the planes are down for, I forget the reason. You can't get there. So I'm in the airport, I get my cell phone out, I call AT&T, my carrier, have them hook me up with an international plan, right there on the spot. So I call overseas, they have to pay an arm and a leg. And I reach Bishop Gillies and tell him what the problem is. Because all these people are coming in, and they're going to do it. And I said, I can't get there. Get yourself on the first flight they've got there. You've got to get here. We'll delay it. So I did. I booked it, got in the next day, flew, got on a red eye. Left early, got in there in the morning. The consecration was supposed to take place, I think, like 11 o'clock in the morning, but because I didn't get in until 9 or 8, I forget which, he rushed me, he drove me to his house, an hour and a half from Glasgow, told me to lay down and get some rest, which I can't do when you're flipping overseas. But I did. I laid down in the bed that he called it my room, which was when his older daughter moved out because I'd spent so much time with him. And they moved the ordination back to 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the consecration. I didn't have time to rest. Before I went there to be ordained a priest, I've been there 5 days. Had time for my body to adjust, had to go through all this altar training. I was telling Bishop Ron and Nancy at dinner about the do things and involved with the veiling and unveiling. Do it again. Well, I just did it. Do it again. Do it again. Do the consecration. Had the pieces of luck. Do this over and over and over and over and over until you're going to fall down. And that's what we did. We trained that week. And because they have a tradition, the newly ordained priest does a communion after ordination. You just take the service over and do it. Sometimes you give a homily. We all have to say something. So, but I had time to get ready for it. The consecration, not so. I'm delayed. Like I said, if there's anything evil in the world trying to keep you from getting there, I've experienced it twice in going through the ordination process. I get there, it's delayed, I'm totally wiped out. Just scrambled brain, didn't sleep all night. You can't sleep in those planes. And I get there, and I don't have to do, well, we did do a service too. We had a communion. We all had to, the bishops had to do, we had to do a service together, all the bishops together. And had to say something to the group, blessing and whatever. And I don't remember much of it. I was just totally drained. And how I got through it is beyond me. The parts I had to say, the parts I had to do, I just But somehow I got through it. And probably part of the draining experience is what it does for you. If you think being a deacon puts a burden on you, if you think being a priest puts a burden on you, think about being in line with the apostles. And you're told, when I lay hands on you, we have apostolic lines that go back to Rome. They go back to Peter in Antioch. They go back to James's church in Jerusalem. They go back to St. David's of Wales and the Celtic. We got several lines in the old Celtic church that I have that were given to me. And you're told, you stand in the line of all of these people. And you're thinking, me? It really hits you. It's really humbling. I mean, and the whole time, I had to leave the next day, just because my time off and where the flight was and all that, and it just a whirlwind. I wouldn't say that I regretted it, but I really felt inadequate. Because then they were saying, well, we wanted you, we chose you to be the bishop, but and by the way, we've not had much luck spreading this stuff in Scotland. The Scots are so stubborn. How about spreading it in America? Well, people over here are stubborn too. We got Scots living here too. And other stubborn people. Big burden to be given to, aside from just knowing that responsibilities that all of a sudden you're the bishop. And now instead of, I'd always looked up to these people because they trained me and they taught me. And now all of a sudden, I'm sitting with them, wearing the same kind of outerwear they're wearing, and being asked my opinion on things, being asked to vote on certain matters at synod. It's just overwhelming. But what you have to remember is you've got to look back at what our bishop was in the Celtic Church. In the Celtic Church, our bishops didn't sit in bishop chairs. We did services. We roamed the countryside, the Peronini, the wandering monks, the wandering bishops. We went out among the people and worked. We just didn't sit in a chair in a church and put a little pointy hat in our head and come around at confirmation time and ordain priests. We got out and worked. There's essentially no difference, I realized, in a bishop in the Celtic Church and a priest, except that we make priests. We ordain priests. That's essentially it. And I would say, they'll tell you, well, you've got your apostolic succession back to James in Jerusalem and Peter in Antioch and all these other wonderful people. But, when I lay hands on a priest, they've got those lines too. They go back too. But once I realized that was a place of the bishop that really, he was just another working stiff with a different title, I was okay with it.